What's up, guys? Leyton here for UFC Addicts. It's that beautiful time, the giveaway. It's always available. It's free. Smack a comment down below. I believe some people were close last week, but we were all on Thompson pretty much. And yeah, that was just crazy, man. Unfortunately, I wasn't even in a position to hedge anything over. I had a bad night. I took a strong L for Nashville. It happens to the best of us, so we're looking for a rebound card here. Enjoy the breakdown. Peace.
And welcome to episode 25 of UFC Addicts. My name is Aaron, and I'm here as always with my co-host Leyton, and we are here to break down UFC on ESPN 2 from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The main event being Edson Barboza versus Justin Gaethje. As always, I'm here with my co-host, Leyton. What up, buddy?
What's up? Okay, so the last event, I took a strong L, not any profit at all. It was a decent loss for me. But the whole card was a bit bumpy, you know. I know a lot of people would have had a bad card. It happens to the best of us. The main event was just, you know, wow. A Superman hook.
Yeah, I feel partially responsible for Stephen Thompson losing consciousness there. We agreed, and we both picked Stephen Thompson to win the main event, and we know what happens with me in main events. So the black magic, if you aren't aware of it, you better start appreciating and recognizing it because it's real. So I'm not sure if we're going to agree or not tonight, but if we agree, there's a good chance that the other guy's going to win because I have that kind of power.
I mean, that was just crazy, man. It was Battle of the Ninjas, and like Stephen Thompson is so humble, man. Like he was straight away like acknowledging Anthony Pettis, like, wow, that's what happened. Personally, I think, you know, he's been knocked out now in a way he's never been knocked out. You know, Tyron Woodley caught him, you know, and he took some strong punches from Tyron Woodley. But that, you know, that could really change Wonderboy in a way that makes him even more cautious and even harder to deal with in the octagon now. So, you know, if he gets a legit matchup again, I'm not going to count him out like straight away because, you know, this could change him for the better, that knockout. And it sounds weird saying that, but, you know, Stephen Thompson is legit. And Anthony Pettis is legit as fuck as well. So credit to Anthony Pettis. Crazy. Ninja.
That was crazy. I don't really know what else I can say other than black magic. We got and overall, like, it was a pretty decent card. We won't talk about too much of the rest of it here. We'll just jump into these fights here. But I also had a loss on the card. And unfortunately, I was just at a spot towards the main event where either I was going to lose a decent amount of money or basically I would have to bet to cover to get to even. And I decided to let it ride with Thompson. I really didn't see that coming.
It was going well. I mean, he was doing very well. But
I more was expecting maybe a possible surprise submission from Pettis, but the knockout I really didn't see coming. I'll be honest. So
Superman hook, man, crazy. It reminded me a little bit of, you remember Yair Rodriguez recently with Korean Zombie, where it was just that crazy finish last second. That was just like, that's how I felt when he got that knockout. I just felt that again for Anthony Pettis. Like, it was that crazy the way Thompson just flopped from that Superman punch. It was, wow. That is why I love this sport. And we've got a main event here in Edson Barboza and Gaethje. We've got 11 fights before that, but that main event right there, that's going to be crazy too. So
it's going to be a great fight. I'm excited to break down this card, and I'd say we just jump right into it unless you have anything else to say before we go in.
Nope, let's do it.
All right, we are starting at 125 here, between 135. Oh yeah, sorry, 135 here, between Mark De La Rosa and Alejandro Perez. Alex Perez, not Alejandro Perez. Alejandro Perez is at 125. Alex Perez is at 135 and fights out of You'll tell me where I believe alpha male, though. But I will be breaking down Mark De La Rosa, who I was surprised. He's only 24 years old. So I thought he was a little older than that. But 24, that's from 24 to, I feel like 27, 28. That's where MMA players are just constantly evolving. So he is 11-1 overall, 1 TKO, 6 submissions in those 11 wins. 2-1 into UFC, both wins over decent guys, not really too special, and Joby Sanchez and Elias Garcia. And he lost his debut to Tim Elliott. But this guy is, as I found out, very young, but definitely a real talent, especially in the grappling game. He's definitely not the biggest or most lethal striker. He doesn't cut a lot of weight, which I actually like. And it seems like he's kind of slowly building that skill set around the foundation of a decent grappling game. So in his last few fights, he was able to test his striking a little bit more. I think against Perez, though, he's going to be against a guy who's pushing the pace on the feet and trying to keep it there. So I would expect to see De La Rosa implement a lot more of his wrestling in this one in an attempt to get it to the ground. Because he's a smaller bantamweight, I think he's going to have to rely on some footwork to get inside on Perez and clinch him up unless he catches one of his legs, perhaps, or something. But I don't see Perez doing that. I think Perez is just going to be a little too fast and able to keep this striking bout in that distance a little bit. And I don't know if I'll say I'll give Perez a UD here to get back on a winning track. I believe he's coming off a loss to Benavidez.
Yeah.
So no shame there. This is certainly a step down in competition, with all due respect to De La Rosa. But we'll see. One thing to look out for is Perez has been sub 3 times in his career. So that definitely is De La Rosa's path, and he can get it there. And I think this is a good fight between two pretty good prospects. Yeah. So I'll take Perez to get the unanimous decision, however.
Fair play. Okay, so Alex Perez comes into this fight 3-1 inside the UFC. His most impressive win came over a guy I know you like, Jose Torres. I backed Perez in that fight, and if anyone can remember that fight, Perez just bombed on him. Like, he threw over 100 strikes in the first round.
A very good Muay Thai striker.
And the thing is, like,
Sanchez.
so many landed. Like, when you think, he threw over 100 strikes, like, you think, what was it, like 40% landed? Like, Torres took a lot, like, unbelievable shots.
I agree.
So yeah, in his last fight against Joey B, I believe Joey B actually won twice in that fight. I don't know which ref it was. I think it was Yves Levine.
I believe you're right.
He went to stop the fight, and it looked like he stopped it, and then Perez lost the same way. So he actually lost twice on that night. Yeah, that performance wasn't too great. Joey B's a great guy, though, you know, a veteran of the division. But yeah, we're going to agree. We're going to agree with a decision as well. I think Alex Perez does win. Mark De La Rosa, I agree with you. He's going to look to grapple. But Alex Perez can grapple as well. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised even if Alex Perez looked for his own takedown or even trying to sub Mark De La Rosa. But yeah, I agree with you. I just think Alex Perez is going to be a bit better. So I'll take a decision for Alex Perez.
Yep. All right. Well, we're starting out with an agreement. I think we're going to have a few disagreements on this card. So I wasn't sure if that would be one or not. But I am a fan of Alex Perez, even though I got his name wrong. I just happen to be a fan of Alejandro Perez also.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I think it's interesting to see how Perez responds to one of his worst performances, definitely his worst performance in the octagon.
Yeah.
And ironically, coming off one of his best performances in the octagon. So we'll see which Perez shows up, but I'm counting on him to get a decision here and really be cautious of the grappling with De La Rosa, which is really the only way I see De La Rosa winning.
Yeah, fair play. And the odds for this one?
The odds are. One second. Sorry. The odds for this are with Perez pretty heavily, minus 300.
Oh.
And yeah. They opened at minus 180 plus 150, which I was okay with.
So not much faith in De La Rosa here then. He pretty much has one way to win.
And Del Rosa's on 2-fight winning streak, and he fights out of a decent camp. So I'm a little confused. Factory X is not a bad camp at all either. So we'll see. I mean, that may be one that I would have loved to trust Perez a little bit closer, but that almost doesn't make it worth it for that price.
Yeah, maybe a couple parlays, like a 4 or 5 man parlay, but it's a little steep.
Yeah, it's a little steep, but at the same point, I don't see much of a path for Del Rosa besides really, catching him on the feet, or on the ground, so to speak. It's almost he's got a grappler's chance, I'd say, but
fair play.
We'll see. But yeah, moving on to the next fight.
Okay, so 125, Marina Moroz versus Sabina Mazo, and I'll be breaking down. Who am I breaking down here? Sabina Mazo.
We're breaking down Sabina.
Right. She's. I've watched some tape on this girl. She's 6-0 in her pro career. She's making her octagon debut. Watching tape on her, you've seen the head kick finishes. She's looking to basically kickbox with you in there. She's looking to kick you mainly. With her hands, there's not much that she's offering with her hands. She uses the jab quite quickly to measure distance. But from what I've seen is so far she's fighting girls who are quite slow. Marina Moroz, naturally a 115er, who's, it's kind of like a bit of a mirror match. Marina Moroz is also very quick. She offers good kicks as well, just like Mazo. I'm not jumping on the Mazo train yet, if there is one at this point, with the head kick finishes. I just think Marina Moroz is going to move in the octagon with her in a way that she hasn't experienced yet. I'm going to take Marina Moroz basically due to experience. But she is moving up to 125. So, but like I said, Sabina Mazo is only 6-0 at 125. So it's not like she's a veteran of the division or anything.
She's only like 21.
Yeah,
or 20.
So I'll take Marina Moroz by decision.
All right, I will be breaking down Marina Iron Lady Moroz. She's 27 years old, so not exactly too much older here. Also, 8-3 in her career with a TKO, 5 submissions. She's 3-3 in the UFC with a win over Joanne Calderwood in her debut that really put her on the map for a lot of people, where she got a armbar finish. She also has a win over Danielle Taylor, but she's currently on a 2-fight losing streak to Esparza and then Angela Hill. So I look more for the Hill fight as being perhaps a telling way for how this fight goes. And in that fight, she was really, really active against Hill. She threw 200-plus attempted strikes. But this is kind of going back to what you were talking about with Perez last fight when you heard the 100-plus attempted strikes. Unfortunately with Moroz, she was wildly inaccurate in that fight. So she did throw 200-plus, but ended up being on the short end of a decision against Hill, who really chose her shots and made them count while Moroz was hitting a lot of air in that fight. And as much as I make fun of Caitlin Chikanian for the Kias, Moroz is giving her a run for her money. She Kias a lot in the fight. So this is another fight where you don't even have to necessarily watch to know who maybe is winning. But I think that Moroz has gotten a little bit too in love with her striking and got away from her grappling, what got her her win in her debut and got her into the UFC. So I really looked for her to get back in touch with that. But, we don't really know too much about her opponent. I think she's a tough girl. She seems pretty calm in there. Obviously throws big kicks, but it seems at times like Moroz or Sabina, I'm sorry, kind of is a little bit lackadaisical in there.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the kicks she throws are with no combos.
Yeah.
Like her leg kicks, she'll throw naked leg kicks. And I see as soon as she's throwing one of those, Moroz rushing her. And every time she does that, rushing her, she throws naked leg kicks, which I've seen a lot of Sabina. So I'm also going to agree with you. I will take Marina, and I will take her to get the decision. I think she's just going to be aggressive and more effective with their counter striking, and I look for her to maybe even try to grapple and get to the ground a little bit. But Sabina also has some credentials on the ground. I just haven't seen her much in her fights yet.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take a decision for the experience, Marina Moroz here, Iron Lady.
Nice.
We get to the odds, and they've stayed steady from what they opened at. Sabina is the favorite at minus 170.
Wow.
Moroz plus 140. So that's what it opened at.
Minus
that's what it's
170. Okay. That's
it's a young undefeated fighter. She's got a lot of experience in kickboxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She's got a black belt. She's got great credentials. It's just, let's see how she does with this step up. She will be the much larger fighter, I would think.
Yeah, maybe.
Being actually a flyweight. But we'll see here. Sabina, she's got a lot of experience, but I think it's like the Colombian Queen or something is her nickname.
Yeah,
so it's Colombian Queen versus the Iron Lady. So yeah, we'll see.
Good fight.
But
okay,
I'll go with the known commodity and agree with you there.
Yeah, nice.
Probably not putting that in a whole lot of parlays.
No, that can take one or two. Yeah. Okay, so Ray Borg versus now Gaethje Kenney. And I'll be breaking down Ray Borg. Comes into this fight 5-3 inside the UFC. He's a decent flyweight. This one's at 135. Earlier on, I actually watched his fight again with Demetrius Johnson, which was his last fight, which was like 16 or 17 months ago. But yeah, I watched that fight again, man. And Ray Borg, he competed the whole time. He was getting outclassed, but he competed the whole time. His scrambles were just like, he's usually so good at scrambling. He's quick. He's relentless. His conditioning is great. He's so well-rounded. And like, just for example, Formiga, like Ray Borg looked to grapple with Formiga. Like, that's how well-rounded Ray Borg is. So, you know, people think about that fight, Ray Borg versus Demetrius Johnson, and they base it on how good Demetrius Johnson was with the suplex armbar. And man, Demetrius Johnson is great, but Ray Borg competed the whole time. Yes, he was outclassed, but Ray Borg has heart. Gaethje Kenney, I'm sure you're breaking down, but he is a 2-division champ. I just think there's levels to this game, and Ray Borg he's quick, his scrambles are so good, and his conditioning is great. So I see the fight going on for a good 10, maybe 15 minutes. But I think Ray Borg's conditioning, his relentlessness is just going to be a key factor. So I'm actually going to take a submission. I'm going to take Ray Borg via submission in round number 2.
Okay, I will be breaking down Gaethje Kenney here, who is the late replacement here. So I apologize if my notes are a little bit shoddy for this one, but I had 20 minutes or so to prepare for this guy. But from what I've seen, he's like I said, he's a 2-time champion in LFA, which I actually really, really do respect. And he was on Dana White's Contender Series, where he lost a really close split decision to a guy, Adam Antolin. I don't know too much about the guy he lost to on the Contender Series, but with it being a split decision, neither guy ended up with a contract. And Adam Antolin, after that fight, got knocked out by Elias Garcia in a minute. So, yeah. So I'm not sure exactly how bad or good of a loss that is, but the things about Casey Kenney I know is that he has some really strong wrestling, and he's got some pretty decent hands. And I think coming into this fight, he definitely was preparing. He fought pretty good competition in his last fight, an undefeated fighter who he ended up knocking out in the first round. But I agree, there are levels to this, and I mean, his best win is against a guy who I'm not exactly too familiar with, but Roman Salazar. So I believe he was in the UFC for a brief time, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I am, but I believe he was back in the day. He was, and he faced Marlon Vera, where he lost. So I believe he was one and done in the UFC. Although, no, he had a few fights in the UFC. He lost to Mitch Gagnon, and he got accidentally eye-poked by Kid Dynamite Yamamoto. So, Casey Kenney, I just don't know how he's going to react to this step up in competition. This being Ray Borg's first fight since the title defense. As you've already mentioned, his grappling and overall his well-roundedness, other than some of the best in the division, like a Demetrius Johnson. He really is able to hang in there. I think this is just too tough of a debut for Kenney. I got Ray Borg. I don't know if he's going to get the finish or not. I'll say third round submission for Ray Borg.
Nice.
I think he just wears him down. He's more prepared here, and I love that he's going up to 135. Ray Borg struggled for a long time to get down to 125 here, and I think he's going to not have a strength issue at 135, and his experience, I think, will carry him through here and get a pretty good decision win. The odds are not available right now.
Fair play.
It just opened up, but I would imagine Borg to be about a 200 favorite or so.
Maybe some value in Casey Kenney because it's such a short notice fight. You have to remember this is a short notice fight for Ray Borg as well. So,
that's correct.
Maybe $5 or $10 worthy of putting on Casey, but you'd have to check the odds first. But it could be something crazy like +3. So
I did see similarities between Casey and what's his name, Kyler Phillips, who was originally in for, I believe, filling in for someone else. But there are some similarities there. Props to Ray Borg for taking this fight against. I mean, this is a 2-division champ who's fought in LFA, which is the next step to the UFC, in my opinion. A lot of good guys come from LFA. On a weekly basis, you can, if you follow LFA on Instagram, they'll always put up the picture of all the LFA fighters fighting in the upcoming UFC card. It's always about 3 to 5 fighters on the card. So lots of good competition outside of the UFC. It's always good to remember. But Borg is a tough debut here, and I like Borg even more potentially at 135 than at 125. So
it's been so long since he's last fought. I'm just happy to see him.
And not to mention, I know a lot of people probably know about his kid who's had a lot of eye surgeries. Got to imagine he's beyond focused. So not saying that wins you a fight, but it doesn't. I think it doesn't hurt with his focus and with his drive. So we're gonna move again, and we're gonna go to the 185 middleweight division here, and we got a good one between Gerald Meerschaert and Kevin Holland. I will be breaking down GM3 Gerald Meerschaert. He's fighting now Rufus Sport, so he's got a good camp there, and he is 28-10 overall. He's got 6 TKOs and 20 submissions. He's 4-2 in the UFC, and he has 3 submissions in those 4 wins. With those subs not coming off over the best guys, like Ryan James, Joe Gigalotti, and Oscar Pichota. And he also had a TKO of Eric Spicely. And his losses also coming by finishes. And It was a TKO to Santos, and that was in the second round. And the last fight, he was pretty thoroughly dominated by Jack Hermansson, where he actually was subbed in the first round, which I was shocked by, but was near perfect performance by Hermansson, and definitely Meerschaert's worst. And one thing I liked about Meerschaert since getting to UFC is that he took his time to get here. He had 30-plus fights by the time he got signed with the UFC. And he's ended up looking pretty strong and like a veteran since arriving here. Even in his losses, he's still, I mean, he has been dominated by Hermansson, but he still looked like he belonged in there to me. He's got strong striking, really aggressive submission game. And this is definitely a close matchup. I think we could get a stand-up war if Holland's able to get his way, or we get a grappling battle. So I think where the fight takes place will kind of dictate a little bit who wins here. But I do think Meerschaert looks to test Holland on the ground in this matchup. And I do know Holland to be a little bit tricky on the ground, especially from a Santos fight. And when he does get there, I think he can make some moves from his back. But I think that Meerschaert is just a little bit better, or a lot bit better, actually, on the feet, and a little bit better overall. Good variety of chokes, and I think the ground is the spot where the skill gap's the largest. I think that Meerschaert can hang in there on the feet. I don't think it'd be smart to keep it there a long time. And I'm going to take Meerschaert to get a submission in the second round in what could be a back-and-forth fight early. And I do think it's a close match. But I'm going to take a second-round submission for GM3, Gerald Meerschaert.
Nice. Okay, so Kevin Holland comes into this fight 1-1 inside the UFC. Previously fighting on the Contender Series, where he fought Will Santiago, I believe. Most people don't know who he is. I didn't know who he was before I watched that fight. But basically, if you remember that fight, he's like a midget. So it was a massive, massive disadvantage in that fight.
It was a showcase fight, as we like to say.
It was a showcase fight where Kevin Holland actually got cracked a few times. So, so his debut, Thiago Santos, there's no shame in losing that fight. Kevin Holland's a bit of a joker. You know, if he's on the bottom, you know, he was asking Santos, why are you hitting me so hard? You know, he's a very goofy guy. And then he fought John Phillips in China. I believe Kevin Holland won that fight 29-28. You know, there was a few issues in that fight. Kevin Holland was basically walked down all fight. He had John Phillips hurt on occasions, but couldn't finish him. And, you know, there's a bit of a... After Kevin Holland gets past that first round, there's a bit of a problem with him slowing down. He slows down quite a bit. And he doesn't cut any weight for 185. So he is looking to beat these guys who are, you know, cutting all this weight. And it works, you know, it does work. But I just think after that first round, if he doesn't get it done in the first round, it becomes an issue. And with a guy like Meerschaert, he is definitely a strong 185er. He's very big. You know, he's always ripped in there at 185. He definitely cuts quite a bit. Yeah, you know, if it stays on the feet, Kevin Holland has, you know, a variety of kicks. You know, he could finish Meerschaert at any point with a kick. But I just think if it gets past the first round, Meerschaert's going to wear on him a bit, you know, grab him up against the fence. Because Kevin Holland does get quite close to the fence after the first round. He slows down considerably and he finds himself close to the fence. And I think if Meerschaert notices that and keeps a good pace on him, like pressing the action constantly, I pretty much agree with you. I see him taking Kevin down and just tiring him out, basically. It's a close fight though, but I'm gonna take Meerschaert by close decision, potentially losing the first round, but I see him getting the nod. So I take Meerschaert via decision.
Yeah, the other part is that in each of Kevin Holland's fights, he's definitely taken a decent amount of shots. So, including his Contender Series fight. So, Meerschaert, I think, can stun him on the feet and then end up having his legs go a little bit so make the takedown easier. So I think pressuring him against the fence, I don't think this is going to be fun the center of the octagon. I think that Meerschaert's going to be cutting angles, keeping his back against the fence and then or on the mat. So interestingly enough here, we got our first agreement with an upset here, plus 175 for Meerschaert.
Yeah, that's lovely.
So,
that's definitely going in a couple parlays.
Yeah, I'm on top of that one as well. Minus 225 for Holland, opened at minus 250 and plus 200.
Yeah.
So
Kevin Holland's not a bad pick. You know, he could get it done in the first round.
That's way too heavy.
He could even, he could even win that second round. But I just think Meerschaert is a strong, big 185er, and if you don't finish him, he could make it a long night. So I'm definitely on those underdog odds. I agree with you. It is a little.
I think
heavy.
It should be a pick'em. I think it should be a pick'em, but I like the price a lot. Plus 175 is plus 180 on some sites I'm seeing. That's pretty surprising.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to Kevin, the Angel of Death, Aguilar, and Enrique Barzola. I will be breaking down Kevin, the Angel of Death. He is 16-1 now in his career, 10 TKOs, 2 submissions. He's 1-0 coming off a debut win over Rich Glenn by unanimous decision, where he definitely showed that he belongs here. I think that he's in for another tough 15 minutes here, though, with Barzola. And I see this as being kind of a little bit of a war. He's a Dana White Contender Series winner where he had a war against Joey Gomez where he got a split decision. And then thanks to a late injury from Arnold Allen, he ended up getting his UFC opportunity. He's been able to develop good experience in LFA. He had a great fight and finish against Damon Jackson, who is a multiple-time UFC fighter. It was a championship fight. They both really hurt each other, and he ended up finishing Jackson, I believe, in the 3rd or 4th round with an uppercut. And he also KO'd Thon Lee. Those were his last 2 wins before joining the UFC. He's a quick 145er. He's got some legit power in his hands. And I think, again, he's a guy who's taken his time and really developed some experience in good organizations with some legit competition. And, I think Aguilar will be the quicker fighter here. And I think he's got to use good movement against Barzola. And I think he can do that. And I think he'll end up beating up Barzola a little bit more. I've just not been too impressed with Barzola, even in his wins. It's just I'm not seeing a lot here that really excites me, but I do see it being a close fight. And I think he can get him in the 3rd. But honestly, I'm not sure if I can pick a finish or not. But I'll go with the decision again, and I'll take Aguilar to get the decision.
Nice. Okay, so Enrique Barzola comes into this fight 5-1 inside the UFC. A strong argument he could be 6-0. He got a split loss to Bosniak. Argument there that he could be 6-0. Barzola is a strong featherweight. I've watched all of his fights recently in the last 2 days. All of his fights in the UFC, that is. And he's just so strong. He's used to fighting guys who are usually taller than him, who's got the reach advantage. Guys like, Gabriel Benitez, who offer, a decent arsenal on the feet. In this fight, he's going to be fighting a guy who's 5'7" like himself. So I'm sure he's going to, look to take advantage of that. Because he's always fighting these guys who are taller and longer, and he's always doing so well against them. So, basically what Barzola looks to do is he'll fight you at a relentless pace. And he's looking to just take you down, wear on you. On the feet, if it's standing, he has a nice calf kick. He'll go high with the kick. But he's basically looking to just take you down, level change when he can. And we've seen in Kevin Aguilar's fight against Joey Gomez, I believe you said, the Contender Series. Kevin Aguilar got took down in that fight, and he got beat up badly in that first round. I believe it was the first round. So yeah, I'm looking for Barzola to do a bit of that. Take down Kevin Aguilar, you know, don't get into a firefight on the feet. And yeah, so I'm pretty confident in Barzola, so I'm going to take him via decision.
Okay. Yeah, I see these guys really mirroring each other a lot, and that actually encouraging Barzola to stand in trade. And I think if that happens, I think Kevin Aguilar is going to be on the positive side of a decision. He's also, another thing I really liked about Aguilar is he's shown in multiple fights he can come back from adversity, come back from losing first rounds.
He's got heavy hands.
Yeah, and he's shown that he doesn't get discouraged if you take him down originally. Damon Jackson got a few takedowns on him in their LFA fight. I highly recommend going back and watching that fight. It's a really good fight. It's on YouTube. And he came back and still had the energy to finish him in the championship rounds. Both these guys being 5'7", I think sometimes being the short guy is not necessarily a disadvantage in fights. Sometimes it really, you know, you see with like a Tyron Woodley, Darren Till type situation, it can really allow them to kind of rush and get inside and make it the fight a little more awkward for the taller opponent. So here, I don't as much agree with you that him fighting someone his own size is going to allow him to take advantage. He may not really be used to it. Maybe not the same thing, but similar to a southpaw fighting a southpaw. It kind of cancels out, and they're not used to facing southpaws, even though they're southpaws themselves. Short guy, he's probably not used to facing a lot of guys his size, so it may encourage him to think, oh, I can reach him a little more with my strikes and stand and trade. But we'll see. But the odds are straight pick 'em almost. So minus 105 for Aguilar, minus 125 for Barzola.
Yeah, that seems about right to me. So if I had to pick which guy I took the plus, I'd say Kevin Aguilar, but only by like plus 10 or 20. So those odds seem pretty decent.
And it opened with a plus 130 for Barzola. So it opened with a slight favorite for Aguilar.
Yeah, that's fair play.
Has become a pick 'em. So you want to move us on to the next fight, which I don't think is going to be fight of the night. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so we have Ross Pearson versus Desmond Green. And I'll be breaking down Ross Pearson. Comes into this fight 11 wins, 12 losses. He's been in the UFC now for 10 years. He's won one fight in his last 6 fights. He's going to be the shorter man here. He's going to have the disadvantage in the reach. He's not going to have a grappling advantage. He's not going to be stronger than Desmond Green. He's probably not going to be quicker from what I've seen in his last few fights. So how does Ross Pearson win? I think Ross Pearson just has to go in there and do what he normally does. You know, try and kickbox, and, you know, if one of those hooks lands, it's, you know, good night for Desmond Green. If it doesn't land flush, you know, Desmond Green's playing the outside game. You know, he's pretty much controlling the fight. So, yeah, not much hope for Ross Pearson. I haven't seen the odds. I'm sure it's crazy. It should be. You know, despite Desmond Green not being the greatest fighter at 155, surely he can, you know, pretty much control where the fight goes against Ross Pearson. So yeah, I'm actually going to take a knockout. I'm going to take Desmond Green to win by TKO in round number 2.
Okay. That'll be great. Excuse me. At least you didn't hear my lighter. So I'll be breaking down Desmond the Predator Green.
The Predator.
Yeah, he looks like the Predator, so that's fair. So he is 21-8 overall, 5 TKOs and 1 submission. He's 2-3 in the UFC, which seems somewhat pedestrian until you break down the 5 fighters he's fought. He hasn't had a gimme yet. Not that there's many in the UFC, but his 2 wins are over Gleison Tebow and Josh Emmett, when Josh Emmett was still at 155. And his losses came to Ruslan Khabilov, Michel Prazeres, and Maribek Taisumov. So In all those fights, both the wins and losses going to decision. So, like I said, he hasn't gotten any favors so far in his UFC career. And that's until this fight, in my opinion. I think he finally has a chance to get somewhat of a respectable win against a guy who not sure how much he really has in him at this point, in Ross Pearson. And I think Dez looks to test his stand-up a little bit in this fight. And then I think it turns into a wrestling match. And I think he takes him down, keeps him down for 3 rounds, and gets a decision. I don't think it's going to be a finish. I would like to see Green pursue the finish a little bit here, but I'm not sure if he will. Or if he's just really looking to just get another win and move to 3-3 and avoid possibly being cut from the UFC with a loss here. So I'll take Green. I'll take him to get the finish. Take him to get a decision. Sorry. And the odds are your boy Perez, so they're -400 to +300.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to throw like $10 on Ross Pearson and hope for that hook, fair enough. But
yeah, you just throw it on a TKO finish, get a little extra juice.
Yeah.
If you're already throwing your money away.
Yeah, that's fair.
But you shouldn't count on Ross Pearson at this point. But I also think Desmond Green is not quite showing his full potential in the UFC, so he has a real shot here, I think, in this one.
Yeah. So okay, so Jessica Aguilar versus Marina Rodriguez, and I'll be breaking down Jessica Aguilar. Okay, so she comes into this fight 1 win, 3 losses inside the UFC. She got that win over Jodie Esquibel, and she was able to do that by basically holding Jodie against the fence, maybe getting 2 or 3 takedowns in that fight. Pretty much just holding Jodie Esquibel. Her 3 losses, she was basically outclassed in all of those fights. One that stands out to me is Courtney Casey. Go back and watch that fight. Courtney Casey was on her back a lot in that fight, and Jessica Aguilar she wasn't even on top of her. She was just eating like up kicks from Courtney Casey. So yeah, even when she's looking to clinch, she's not exactly great when it comes to, clinching up. Michelle Waterson was able to easily pass guard and even put Courtney Casey in some bad positions on the mat. And we look at Jessica Aguilar as some girl who's gritty and she's able to clinch, and if she gets you in the clinch, it's her world. It's actually a little bit deceiving. That only happened for her against Jodie Esquibel. So yeah, Jessica Aguilar is not going to win on the feet. Marina Rodriguez has a draw to Randa. And Randa is legit when it comes to grappling. So Jessica Aguilar, even if she gets a hold of Marina Rodriguez, I still don't see her basically doing anything from it. I give Jessica Aguilar literally no chance in this fight. So yeah, Marina Rodriguez is basically going to pick her apart on the feet and just win like that. So I'll take another decision win, but a very dominant one for Marina Rodriguez.
Okay. I will be breaking down Marina Rodriguez, 10-0-1 now. She has 5 TKOs. She's 0-0-1 in her UFC career. So she has that draw against Randa Marcos, where I think she was slightly on the short end of a very fortunate draw there in Brazil.
Yeah, sure.
And she was taken down, and I feel Randa won the first 2 rounds.
I agree.
But the thing that I was really encouraged with Marina was, for one, she was pretty active on her feet, did a decent job of getting back to her feet a few times where she was taken down. And also, again, like Kevin Aguilar, she showed she could come back from adversity and end up, by the 3rd round, she finished as a stronger fighter, for sure. So I really liked seeing that kind of grit and resiliency out of a fighter like Rodriguez. And hopefully she continues to patch up her ground game, because that is where the holes are. She was coming off a 1st round finish on Dana White's Contender Series, so take a shot of juice. And she is a Muay Thai fighter. She's facing a late replacement here in Aguilar. But I think she has a chance to show she's improved her grappling a little bit, perhaps. Mm-hmm. I think she's going to come out aggressive and show more of what she showed in the second and third round against Randa. And I think she actually gets that finish here in the third round. Nice. And just is able to outpace and land some strikes and get the finish by TKO for Marina over Jessica Aguilar.
Nice.
So, yeah, I will take a rare third round finish for a female fight here. Nice. But I'm going to take it. Rodriguez minus 315 plus 245 for Aguilar. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, completely fine with that. Marina could even be fucking -5 in my eyes because Jessica Aguilar is just disappointing, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, she really came with some pretty decent hype coming from WSOF, as it was called back then. And she was, I remember some people saying this, and obviously it's just some idiots maybe, but she was called the female GSP by some people back in the day. Yeah, because they really believed her wrestling and overall she was able to mix it up like a female GSP. That was Jessica Aguilar at some point.
Crazy.
That's ridiculous. It's what knee surgeries and a long UFC career do to you, and I think Rodriguez gets a finish here. I've followed Rodriguez a little bit here, and I've really liked what I've seen. So we'll see, but yeah, we're moving on to, is this the beginning of the main card?
Yes, it is. It is Sheymon Moraes versus Sadiq Yusuff. And I'll be breaking down Sheymon Moraes. Comes into this fight 2-1 inside the UFC. 2 wins, 1 loss. There's actually a case he could be 0-3. In his debut, he fought Zabit, outclassed and finished. Then he fought Matt Sales, where there was an argument he could have got the split loss. I don't think it was a split. I think his next one was a split against Dan Ige. Against Dan Ige, you know, same thing. Sheymon Moraes was pushed in that fight, held against the fence at times, and Dan Ige was able to take him down. So yeah, he could be 0-3, but he's not. He's 2-1. In this fight, I don't think he's going to be grappling. So, you know, there's an argument for those 3 fights where he was made to work a lot. I don't think he's going to be made to defend the takedown here. You know, if Yusuff proves me wrong and takes down Moraes, I'm definitely looking into Yusuff's game more. But I don't think it's going to be that kind of fight. I think Yusuff is just going to look to counter, move. The leg kicks he was throwing in the Contender Series were really nice. And yeah, really, really heavy hands too. So he could clip Moraes, but there's something I like about Sheymon's game, his variety of leg kicks as well. And to say he's not going to be grappling much in this fight, I believe. I'm actually going to take Sheymon Moraes. Sadiq's going to have to prove a little bit to me. I know he's had a debut already against Suman Mokhtarian. And I actually went against him in his debut. But
yeah, I sold you a little bit on Suman.
Yeah, I'm going against him again. I just think Sheymon Moraes is a decent kickboxer. And I think Sadiq's gonna, you know, have a decent fight here. So, yeah, I'm gonna take Sheymon Moraes via decision. Taking a lot of decisions here, but
yeah, interesting. So I'll be breaking down Sadiq Super Yusuff. He is 25 years old and 8-1 with 5 TKOs, 1-0 coming off with an outstanding first round KO of a fellow fighter making his debut in Suman Mokhtarian, who I was also a big fan of. He came in as a big submission threat, but Sadiq seemed to have no problems there, and he was also a huge favorite on that fight, I remember. I think like 3 or 450, something in that range, and he proved why. He's a Dana White Contender Series winner by decision. Has really good leg kicks. He has a good right hand. He took some shots as well in that fight. He ended up dropping his opponent with a left, and he hurt him several times. Wrestling is where I worry about Yusuff. So I think Yusuff is he's looking to make an exciting fight here, and he was able to pull off a 3-1 upset on Dana White's Contender Series. So he's had an interesting little run with his odds lately. He was a 3-1 underdog, and then he won a pretty clear decision. Then he was a 4-1 favorite, and I'm not sure what he is on this fight yet, but Yusuff is definitely legit, especially standing up, and I'm really looking forward to this fight with Sheymon. I think it's super close, and I think Sheymon has a nasty game himself, stand up and on the ground, and this is a really exciting fight. I expect it to be a kickboxing bout. If it is, I give Sadiq the chance to win a unanimous decision. What I am interested in is if Sheymon looks to push the ground a little more. And if he does, I give Sheymon a real chance to win a decision himself. I'm just going to go with that he has faith. Sheymon has a little bit too much faith in his stand-up, and I'll give Sadiq the unanimous decision win. So I believe this is our first disagreement, or second disagreement. Second disagreement?
Yeah, second. You took Aguilar, right?
Yeah, I took Aguilar. So, yeah, I'm taking Sadiq here.
Yeah.
So another Dana White Contender Series winner for me. No coincidence there.
Yeah.
But if there's a Dana White Contender Series winner that fights out Fortis MMA, I'm probably not going to ever pick against him.
Fair play.
But Sadiq is a -170 favorite, +140 for Sheymon. I feel that's spot on.
I mean, for me, it's a little off. He could be like a -140. But yeah, that's fair play. But I'm going to take a stab at Sheymon Moraes. He'll definitely be in at least one parlay.
Very, very good. Okay, well, let's move on to the next fight here this is at 205, correct?
Yes.
Between Kennedy Zaychukwu, and he fights out of my camp, Fortis MMA, and Paul Craig, who does not fight out of Fortis MMA. So Kennedy Zaychukwu looks crazy, but that's how you say it. 6-0, 4 TKOs, 2-time Dana White Contender Series winner. With the second one coming by way of head kick knockout. He's a tall, good-looking kickboxer. From what I've been able to see of him so far, fights out of a really strong camp. And I think he's going to be keeping this fight at range on the feet, and I see him beating up Paul Craig. I think that Paul Craig will look to shoot early and often, and I think Kennedy's going to be too strong, too athletic, and ready for that game plan. And I see struggles similar to Roundtree here for Mr. Craig. And I'm going to take Kennedy to get a first-round TKO of Paul Craig and keep the train rolling for Fortis MMA. And if Craig can get him down, it's up for grabs, and I acknowledge that. I just think as he's trying to get him down, Kennedy's going to catch him and finish him. So I'll take Kennedy Zaychukwu by first-round TKO. I'm excited to see how this guy looks in there.
Fair play. Okay, so Paul Craig, 2-3 inside the UFC. So looking at his last 3 fights, that loss to Roundtree was, a terrible performance. He was basically frozen in there. Wasn't looking to take Roundtree down. He was fighting in Scotland, and he was just frozen. And then he fought Magomed Ankalaev, where he should have got the loss. He was beat up pretty much. But he did look to strike in that fight. He did look to shoot for a takedown. So despite getting that great comeback win with the triangle in the last 10 seconds, he lost that fight, but he definitely improved. And then against Jimmy Crew, another loss, but once again, even more of an improvement. He's looking to shoot. He's shooting far more. His striking looks more confident. So, I'm pretty much looking for Paul Craig to do exactly what he's been doing. If he shoots early and often, like you said, it goes one of two ways. Paul Craig gets him to the mat, and then we see how he looks on his back, or it goes the way you said, where he's too strong and athletic to know, that's what you're going to do, Paul Craig. I'm ready, I'm prepared. Stuffing a lot of takedowns. So it goes one or two ways. But I do want Paul Craig to shoot the way he has been. If he shoots and it goes the way you say, I don't feel too bad in picking Paul Craig, because I do believe he's looking better and better. So I am going to take Paul Craig to shoot early and often, like you said, to get the takedown, and then to sink in some sort of submission. So I'll take Paul Craig submission in round number 2.
All right. And the odds, you're going to like this, plus 185 for Mr. Craig. The newcomer Kennedy Zedchukwu at minus 235.
Yeah, I love that. I watched Kennedy. I watched his Contender Series fights as well. The second one, like you said, was impressive. The first one, not too impressive, but, the kid is, he's a phenom. Look at the size of him, the reach. He'll have the reach advantage in this one. So, it is his fight to lose, realistically. But yeah, I'm gonna take a stab at Paul Craig.
Fair play, and that will be our third disagreement of the night so far. And we're moving on to the next fight here at 115 between Karolina Kowalkiewicz and Michelle, the karate hottie Waterson. I will be breaking down Michelle Waterson. She is 16-6 overall, 3 TKOs, 9 submissions. She's 4-2 in the UFC. She has wins over Paige Van Zandt, Courtney Casey, Angela Manjana. And the karate hottie, she's pretty well-rounded. She has a variety of attacks from her feet, including some decent kicks. Has a pretty aggressive submission game, and seems to favor going after the submission in her fights. And I think that Michelle's struggled against the upper echelon, her losses being to Rosa and Tisha Torres. And she just barely got by Courtney Casey, too. So this is right around that similar type of threshold. I think we're in for a similar fight to the Courtney Casey fight here with regards to it being I can definitely see this being a split decision. And I'm just not sure where Karolina's head is at, especially after that pretty brutal knockout she had against Andrade, and not sure how much that will affect her confidence. And I've been back and forth on this fight. I think it's going to be a close split decision. I'll take Karolina, I guess.
Okay. Nice.
By a split decision. Not going in many parlays for me.
Fair play. Okay, so Karolina comes into this fight 5-3 inside the UFC. I was at her fight in New York against Felice Herrig. I believe that was her fight after where she got choked out against Claudia Gadelha. She won against Felice Herrig by split decision. And what we saw in that fight was improvements in her grappling. Every time Felice grappled her, Karolina looked to attack in those positions. Her grappling definitely looked better. Yeah, it's a really close fight, this one. It's a mirror match in some ways because both girls have great movement. Both girls have good combinations on the feet. Both girls have a variety of kicks. And I kind of agree with your breakdown in some ways. The way I see it being different for Michelle Waterson in this fight to Courtney Casey is Courtney Casey was a big girl in that fight, and she pressed Michelle Waterson a lot, and that's where Michelle Waterson had trouble. But after the first round, she really grew into that fight. I don't see Karolina pressing the action the way Courtney Casey did. I see Michelle Waterson having an easier fight here in a way that she doesn't have to work as hard in her movement, because both girls have great movement. I don't think Karolina is going to be pressing the action, especially after that brutal knockout to Jessica, and that was a horrendous knockout. It's not always the shots that are hard. It's pretty much always the shots you don't see. And I've rewatched that fight again recently, and she did not see that right hand coming. And it nearly took her head off. It was that bad.
Yeah. She was crying afterwards.
Yeah, even after Claudia Gadelha, when she got choked out, she was crying in that one. So a lot of crying from Karolina when she's losing. It's a close fight. I think Michelle Waterson definitely has the advantage when it comes to the grappling, even though we've seen those improvements from Karolina. I just think Michelle Waterson even got her own takedowns against Courtney Casey, and that was all coming through technique. Michelle Waterson is very technical, just like Karolina. So yeah, really close fight, but we're going to disagree here. I'm going to take Michelle Waterson to get a submission. I'm going to take it in the first.
Wow. Okay. Cool. And the odds are at plus 125 for Michelle Waterson, minus 155 for Karolina.
Yep, I like those. That's fair. That's completely
fair. You got a few dogs to bet on.
I do.
So that's nice. And let's go ahead and move on to the 145 division here.
Yes. Take it away.
Between Michael the Menace Johnson and Josh Emmett, I will be breaking down Michael the Menace Johnson, 19-3 overall, with a lot of those being by TKO. He is 11-8 in the UFC, and Michael Johnson, he's a hard hitter, and that has translated down to 145. One thing that his last two fights have shown me, however, is his increased willingness to follow a game plan. Mm-hmm. And that's actually really impressed me more. And I think by having more of a overall composure with his game plan, I think it will allow him to possibly be even more comfortable on his feet and maybe even more of a threat. And I think that this is a very winnable fight for him. And I'm taking Johnson. I think Johnson is able to trade with Emmett. I think Emmett will feel he has a good chance to catch Johnson with some counters, and I think that will be a mistake. And I see Johnson getting I'm actually picking another KO, and I'm going to pick it in the first round again.
Nice.
So I got first round TKO for Michael Johnson, and I think this will be his most impressive fight at 145 so far.
Nice. Okay, so Josh Emmett comes into this fight 4-2 inside the UFC. Previously fighting at lightweight, just like Johnson. He's been at 145 now for 3 fights. Getting a couple good wins there. One of those being over Ricardo Lamas, where, really defined, Josh Emmett at 145. He is a hard hitter. He's looking to stand with you primarily. He's got a nasty left hook. Real power in his hands. I believe it's a winnable fight for both guys. The problem is for Josh Emmett, Michael Johnson also has nasty stand-up. He's a great boxer himself. I believe Tony Ferguson's last loss was to a young Michael Johnson. So, and I believe that was like 30-27 as well. So Michael Johnson can stand with those guys who
knocked out Dustin Poirier.
Michael Johnson can stand with the best, he rocked Habib. His loss to Justin Gaethje basically says you can hit Michael Johnson a lot, but you can still be hurt as well. Josh Emmett isn't exactly like Justin Gaethje. He's not looking to trade with you like that. He's obviously looking to counter you as well. One thing I did notice is Josh Emmett doesn't throw many body kicks, and that's something Michael Johnson does. He throws a nasty body kick. I just think Michael Johnson, has Josh Emmett's number on the feet. If he gets caught with a nasty hook the way Jeremy Stevens did, Josh Emmett could win this fight. But I just think Michael Johnson is very talented with his hands. He's very talented standing. So yeah, I'm gonna agree with you full on. I'm gonna say this is either guy could win, but I'm gonna say whoever wins is in the first round. So I'm gonna take Michael Johnson via TKO in round number 1.
I actually see this being a similar finish to the finish Emmett got on Lamas, but with Johnson catching Emmett. I think Johnson's going to be faster and hit as hard as Emmett. And if you're getting there quicker and hitting as hard as the other guy, it doesn't matter that you guys hit as hard, because that, I think speed is going to really rule here. And both guys are former lightweights. So, you know, I think that the speed goes all the way to Johnson here. So
yeah,
that's a
I really like that fight.
It's a rare full-on agreement for us. And it's a minus 120, minus 110 for Emmett. So minus 120 for Johnson. Straight pick him just
that's
about.
Fair. Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been quite a few months now since. How long ago was that Stevens fight with Josh Emmett?
It had to be October or September of last year, I would think.
Yeah, something like that, man. It's been a while.
Maybe even the summer, because I'm not sure if we were even.
Well, I was in America. I think I was in America. I remember watching that, so it could have been like February even.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, time flies by.
Yeah.
So either way, I'm very comfortable with getting Johnson at those odds at this point. I think that's. I'll add a little bit of juice with the KO finish, which I'm sure will be like plus 120, but still, at least will be something.
Fair play.
But yeah, let's move on to the co-main event here.
Yes. Okay. So we have David Branch versus Jack the Joker Hermansson, and I'll be breaking down David Branch. Okay. So he comes into this fight 2-2 inside the UFC. I recently watched his whole UFC career.
Inside the UFC the second time around.
Yeah. So recently, since he came back, he has a win over Jocko, which was a split win. And then the notable win would be Thiago Santos, where he completely starched him. But rewatching that fight, you can see how bad Thiago Santos is trying to stop that takedown just before that overhand right comes. I just think Thiago Santos completely underestimated David Branch's power, and just kind of looked at that fight as, if I stop his takedown, he can't knock me out, he can't do anything. And as that shot lands, you could see you could see Thiago Santos like not even prepare for that shot. He was just standing there like, oh, I stuffed that takedown, and he just got starched. So yeah, David Branch fought Luke Rockhold, basically outclassed in the second round. And then my boy, Jason Cannonier, just completely... Is that his first name, Jason? I don't know.
Why is it not... That's your boy.
Yeah, well, that's my boy.
Jared. It's Jared.
Okay.
You could also just call him the Killer Gorilla.
Yeah, well, he's the guy who cut down from heavyweight to light heavyweight, and then even still cut from light heavyweight to middleweight. And he's actually fighting Anderson Silva in a few days. And I can't wait to break that one down.
Me too.
So yeah, Cannonier took David Branch's best shot in the second, and David Branch actually attempted the same thing that he did on Thiago Santos in that fight. He went for he went for Cannonier, went for the takedown, and as Cannonier stuffed it, David Branch came over with a right, and Cannonier just ate it like it was nothing, and then replied with his own, and David Branch was done. So, yeah, Jack Hermansson, obviously a very good grappler himself. I think, even if David Branch gets a hold of him, Jack Hermansson can hold his own when it comes to grappling. On the feet, Jack Hermansson was starched by Thiago Santos, and Branch knocked out Thiago Santos. I'm not doing MMA math, but I'm just saying if David Branch catches him, there's nothing you can do. And we've just seen that with Pettis and Thompson. If you get caught in the right place, you don't see it coming. It doesn't matter what game plan you have, you've been knocked out. But yeah, Jack Hermansson's standing, he can hold his own on the feet as well. He's well-rounded. And this co-main spot for him is a big step in his career if he wants to push on and be that next big Swedish fighter. And I really believe that he's going to shine in this co-main spot. So I'm going to take Jack Hermansson, and I'm going to take him to win. I'm going to take a first round. I'm going to say he ground and pounds David Branch after potentially hurting him on the feet. So I'm going to take Jack Hermansson via TKO in the first.
All right. I will breaking down Jack the Joker Hermansson. He is 18-4 with 11 TKOs and 4 submissions. 5-2 in the UFC, coming off 2 straight finishes of pretty good guys, in my opinion, in Talis Laitis and Gerald Meerschaert, in which Meerschaert, he submitted him, which I found shocking. He's been in really exciting fights ever since getting in the octagon, and I think he's looked his best in his last 2. I think he's facing another very solid guy with good grappling in Branch. In his last fight, I think that Hermansson was really showing the involvement in his MMA game. And I think he showed he's capable of finishing a fight anywhere. And I really like this fight, and I look for Jack to push the pace and get a finish with a second-round TKO. Nice. So I think he could really hurt him in the first, even maybe end up maybe in mount or something towards the end of the round, landing some ground and pound, and then end up getting the finish, I'll say, on the feet in the second round for Hermansson. And Hermansson makes a statement to get the fights, get a UFC back in Sweden, maybe headlines a Swedish card sometime next year. I know they're not going there this year, but that's maybe in part because of stuff with Gustafsson kind of falling by the wayside. But
I think they may be going back there this year with the Anthony Smith and Gustafsson. That's been official for the main event. Okay. I believe so, unless it's early next year.
Okay, well, then I didn't know that. My bad. Well, if that's the case, then we may see Hermansson going over there to be the 1-2 punch with Gustafsson. But I like Hermansson to really take advantage of this opportunity and get a second-round TKO.
Yeah.
There's just something about Branch in the UFC. He can't quite get to the level that he's gone to outside the UFC, being a double champ. And I think this is, as big of a spot as this is for Hermansson, this is a huge spot for Branch too. So a lot of pressure, and I'll take a second round TKO for Hermansson. The odds I'll be interested to see. Minus 130 for Hermansson, plus 100, so about even for so even for Branch, minus 130 for Hermansson.
I think that's completely fair. This is a good co-main fight, man. Legit for the division. And yeah, I pretty much agree with you. I just think Jack Hermansson has just looked so impressive. Even against Leyton, when he he dislocated his knee, and he was still able to find the win in the third round when he was down and out. That kid has heart.
Yeah, and the other thing about Hermansson, just something to be cautious of is a lot of time. I mean, that last performance against Meerschaert was his best performance, and oftentimes you follow up your best performance with kind of a head scratcher. So take that to mean what it may, but sometimes coming off a perfect performance is not always the best thing. But I'm gonna give him credit that that's not the case here. So now, we'll move on to the main event, and obviously you're leading off because people want to know my picks.
Dark magic aside.
Black magic may be coming down tonight. We'll see.
Yeah.
So go ahead and lead us off.
Okay, so we have Edson Barboza versus Justin Gaethje, and this is a great main event. I'll be breaking down Edson Barboza. He's 14-6 inside the UFC. He's been in the UFC now for 10 years, nearly. He's a very elite striker. You know, we all know who Edson Barboza is. He's got the calf kick finish, the body kick, the head kick, knees, you know, the wheel kick. He's got everything on the feet. His hands, you know, are still decent, but he's looking to keep it kicking distance and just basically set you up for a kick every so often. There has been the blueprint written on him, how to beat him, you know, Kevin Lee, Habib, where you close the distance, take him down, zap him. He's not exactly great off of his back. So yeah, Justin Gaethje has good wrestling. He's probably not going to use it again. If there was a time to start using it, now would be the time, really. Close the distance, you know, especially if you get into the second or third round with Edson Barboza. You know, if you can get him up against the fence and look to shoot, you're basically securing yourself a win. But he's probably not going to do that. He's probably, you know, going to do what he always does, is stand there, make you fight at the pace he goes. Justin Gaethje does slow down, but his bar just stops. It's like he gets to about 60% left in his gas tank, and it just kind of stays there. But you will continue to fade because this is the way he's always fought. So yeah, I'm pretty much gonna go with that. I'm gonna assume that Justin Gaethje doesn't get head kicked. If he does, it can be stopped at any point. One thing I will say is the way he protects his head when he's taking shots keeps the body wide open for a body kick. So that could also be a possibility on how Edson Barboza beats Justin Gaethje. But I see, if the fight goes like past the second, third, gets to the fourth, I don't see Edson Barboza being in good condition, really. His conditioning against Dan Hooker in the third, it wasn't great, but it was enough because he had kicked Dan Hooker so many times in the calf that he was able to keep his gas tank. He wasn't worked. And Justin Gaethje has a nasty calf kick himself. So if he's able to give Edson Barboza that back, he's able to just basically wear down Edson Barboza to a point where it's, the first man to rock the other man wins in a firefight. It's a hard pick, man. But I'm gonna take Justin Gaethje. I'm gonna assume that he doesn't get head kicked. It gets into like the third or the fourth, and he gets a finish. So I'll take Justin Gaethje via TKO in the fourth.
All right, I will be breaking down Justin the Highlight Gaethje. He is 19-2 overall, 16 TKOs and a submission on his record. So he is 2-2 in the UFC, getting 2 TKOs and getting TKO'd twice. So kill or be killed so far with Justin. We know we're getting a lot of excitement, a lot of leg kicks, and a lot of hooks. And I think that we're in for if Gaethje wants to win this, it's going to have to be a war, I think. And I think I've got to believe that Edson wins a kickboxing bout. But for some reason, there's a part of me telling me that Justin Gaethje finds a way to get into the championship rounds. And if it gets into the championship rounds, that's where he starts to make Edson question if he wants to keep going. And I think that he gets his answer to that in the 5th round. So the Black Magic is picking Justin Gaethje to get a 5th round TKO. And I think that... I
don't know how I feel about you agreeing with me. I don't know how I feel right now.
I wouldn't feel great if I were you, but it is what it is.
But the Black Magic has to turn into like good magic though, right?
I don't know. I honestly believe, for one, I've been back and forth on this, so maybe I'm not hearing my magic correctly. So if I get this right, everybody, the Black Magic still exists. I'm just having trouble this week fully hearing it. So if I get this right, don't worry. Next week, I'm sure I'll be right back. Or in 2 weeks, I believe. We actually finally have a week off next week, I believe.
Yes, we do.
But I think we could finally see Justin wrestle, or at least maybe clinch up and make Barboza work a little bit.
Well, we see when he clinches, it's just mainly holding the head in that tie position for knees.
Even a little more of that than usual would be something to make Edson work, make him work. And I don't think that means getting involved in a stand-up kickboxing fight. I think it means, implementing a little more of MMA here. And I think that we will finally see Gaethje wrestle in the UFC. We haven't seen it much, but I've watched fights outside the UFC where he has used his wrestling. So there's a blueprint on how to beat Barboza, and it's not fighting him the way Dan Hooker did.
Yeah. So and you'll fight tonight? Oh, no. What's the odds for that one? Wait, we got the odds, right?
No, I didn't give you the odds. Okay. I don't think I did. Minus 140 for Edson, plus 110 for Gaethje. So that's going to be a pick 'em.
Yeah,
I gotta think that will be my fight of the night.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I think that I don't like often picking the main event to be fight of the night, but the main event and co-main event and the third fight from the top, Josh Emmett and Johnson.
I really like this main card. This main card to me is nice.
Yeah. I mean, I love seeing Kevin Holland, Gerald Meerschaert on the prelims. Who knows about this Kenney guy? This is a sneaky card here, actually, from Philly.
Yeah.
Even the Alex Perez, Mark De La Rosa leading off. So I'm really looking forward to this card. Still a chance I may be going to it. So I may be getting some last minute tickets. So we'll see. But either way, I will be putting a few wagers down and licking my wounds from the loss last week. But
yeah, I'm with you.
Really looking forward to this card. As always, we appreciate all the comments, even if some of them we will laugh at. We'll still respond to all of them.
Yeah.
So, or as many of them as we can. Just a little word of advice. Sometimes just try not to take us completely literally, but at the same point, you got to take us at our word. But for example, if I say something like with John McDessie saying he's the most prolific Taekwondo practitioner currently in the UFC, what more I was implying towards is that he uses that as a main base for his style. I'm aware that fighters like Anthony Pettis are Taekwondo practitioners, Rose Namajunas, but I would not describe Rose Namajunas as a Taekwondo MMA fighter or having that as her style. I mean, look at how she's finished Joanna other fights. So just a little thing, but we always appreciate the comments. It means you guys are listening. We appreciate the likes. And like I said, we'll be back in a few weeks. Let me see what the fight is in a few weeks.
We got
April 13th. It's Holloway and Poirier. Oh,
yeah.
boy.
It's going to be a good one.
And Kelvin Gastelum and Adesanya. Oh, boy. And, oh, man, this is a good card. I'm just looking at it right now. This is Matt Frivola versus Jalen Turner. There's just all sorts of fun. Wilson Hayes. That fight card in a few weeks is really looking nice. So looking forward to that. Cross our fingers that there's not a lot of injuries, and enjoy the fights, everybody, and peace out.
Nice. One thing I will say before we sign off is we don't actually say what bets we're going to do, but if you're leaving a comment asking which bets we're going for, like Aaron said, we're always responding to comments. So this is a prediction page, and we do bet. We don't like literally say which bets, but we will respond in the comments. So yeah, enjoy the fights, and yeah, peace out.
Thank you, everybody. Peace out.